If you dream of your motorcycle, if your day isn't complete without some time in the saddle, if all you need is the open road and a full tank of gas, well, you've come to the right place, because this is Throttled, and it's starting now. Here's your host, Kevin McKinney.
Hello and welcome back to Throttled, everybody. So glad that you joined us. Kind of post-Thanksgiving break. We did take about two weeks off. We may be taking more time around Christmas. I'm trying to put together what that schedule is going to be like, or if I can even be available for those. We'll wait and see. The guys may record a show if I'm unavailable for a few weeks, but we will wait and see. So this is our first one of December, and we actually had the full crew back with us. Several of you sporting holiday background on the live stream, so check that out if you're interested. I myself have tried to do red and green lights in the background. However, it looks more reddish with a white glowing background around my shoulders.
I see a little green. I can see a little green.
A little tint there.
Yeah.
What I've got for those lights aren't the best. They're not what I really was hoping for. But hey, that's what you get on the shoestring budget that we run the show on. All right, so I know we've got everybody together. Who do we have? Obviously, we just heard from Larry. Larry, how are you doing, my friend?
Oh, yeah, I'm doing good. Managing through so far. Been able to do a little writing and do some reading. And so I'm looking forward to chatting with our guys and talking with you as well. So
we'll talk about that. Well, we'll talk about that writing in just a minute. Let's see who is next. We'll go with Chris. It's been a while since Chris has been on, and we'll let the Mr. Gobblejob go.
I was just going to say, let Gobblejob talk. So it's been a minute. It's been, I think 2 or 3 episodes. It's awesome to be with you guys again. Sorry I don't have a nice holiday background, but it just never seems to work right with my mic setup and everything. It's like everything disappears. So I was like, well, we'll just go with the blurred background. But it's good to see everyone, or be talking with everyone, and see we got quite a few people online tuning in. So that's really cool.
Yeah, it's good to see everybody again. So Tom, the Gobble Jogger, what is up, man?
Yeah, good. So this obviously this is last year's show. So as I was explaining before we kicked things off, pre-pandemic, every year I used to run 5K in my local town square. They did a gobble jog. A few years, my wife and I got really adventurous and did the Atlanta half marathon on Thanksgiving mornings, but we got a little smarter, so we just cut it to a 5K. So you go out, you run 3 miles, you burn 500 calories, and that justifies you eating 5,000 calories later in the day.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love watching people run some of the marathons, and then hey, we're going out for pancakes afterwards. It's just like, wait a minute. But I guess they've been without pancakes for a while. So, well, let's see, riding wise, Larry,
what
you
about
said,
Chris?
well, Chris.
I said hello.
He said hello.
Yeah, I said hello.
Yeah.
Before Gobblejob went.
Yeah. So, but Larry, you mentioned you did some riding. What kind of riding have you gotten in the last few weeks?
So I've just been doing local riding, but the weather's been really beautiful, and so I've gotten out a couple times a week and gone on some of the local rides that I've talked about up the coast to Marshall and to Point Reyes and to San Antonio Road, and riding through farmland, and it's been just really nice. Seashore, riding along the coast and then coming inland and riding through the farmland. It's really spectacular. So, of course, we could use some rain. So I'm hoping that maybe I'll have some days where I don't ride because of rain. But so far it's been good. A couple times a week. How about the rest of you guys? Yeah.
Tom, what about you?
Up until last week, I was doing a fair amount of riding just up in the local mountains. I was actually supposed to, or trying to get together with Rodney. So Rodney went up into North Carolina and rode for a few days, and he contacted me beforehand, and we were trying to set up, I think on the Friday, he was coming through for us to ride together up in North Georgia. Unfortunately, my son changed his travel schedule to come down for the holidays. So Sorry, Rodney, I had to bail on you at the couple days beforehand. So missed that opportunity to ride with him. My last ride was last Saturday. Went up just in the mountains for a few hours, but I'm now away from home and going to be away from my motorcycles for the whole month of December. So this will be, I think, the longest period I will have gone the last 10 years without riding a motorcycle. I'll go for a full month. I do have my electric bikes, so I will have motorized two-wheel propulsion around, but not motorcycles. So we'll see how the month goes and how my withdrawal happens.
Well, I hope that goes well for you, man. Hope that withdrawal. You don't get the shakes. That's the big thing. As long as you don't get the shakes, you'll be okay. Chris, what about you, man?
That's why I brought the electric bikes. They should handle it.
Now, Chris did have a major event.
Yeah,
He is minus one bike at this point.
So I am minus a bike. So no riding, I think, since I spoke to you guys last. Maybe one trip up upstate New York a little bit. But so the Vulcan S has finally found a new owner and a new home.
Whoa.
So that has cleared a little space in the garage and left some budget for probably it'll be a combination of a motorcycle trailer and a track bike. We were just talking before the show. I ordered myself a new 4-door Jeep Wrangler that who knows when it's going to come with all the COVID stuff going on, but that will be my tow vehicle. So yeah, getting all set up for doing track days and such next season.
And what are you thinking about for a track bike?
I'm really not sure yet. Everybody keeps asking me, and I'm really not sure. I haven't started looking. In some ways, I'm kind of kicking myself because this guy Manny, who runs the riding academy up at New York Safety Track, sold his KTM RC390, which was all kitted out. But at the time, I just wasn't ready to make a purchase. I mean, he even offered me a bit of a deal because I know him through the podcast and whatnot. But so I don't know. I'm hedging, like a 400, maybe a 600. Some people have, suggested like a SV650. So,
so you're not going straight to the leader.
It's funny because I get torn between. It's really cool. Like, you go to one of these track days or, you go to a race or whatever. There's nothing like the sound of a leader bike, whamming up the main straightaway or whatever, but, and the power and whatever. But honestly, I'd like to learn to ride properly. And, by all indications, the most advice is, start on a smaller bike to learn to ride properly before you, try to tame a leader bike. So,
But does a smaller bike include a 600?
It could, I guess. Yeah. I mean, I guess it depends on what 600. I had was it 6 months ago or something like that? Maybe it was a little bit longer, 9 months ago. I had been in the dealer. There was like Kawasaki demos. The Kawasaki truck was at a dealer, and I actually had ridden. That I had talked about this the ZX. What is it? ZX6R. Kawasaki 600, which is an amazing bike. It's inline 4-cylinder, 636 cc or whatever. And I almost did it. I almost bought one, but I was like, nah, all right, I don't really want to, I'm not gonna go new for a track bike, and let me calm down a little bit and kind of think it through. So it's probably a good thing I didn't. But so yeah, Lloyd is suggesting maybe like a Yamaha MT-07, which I know. I mean, that's one of the bikes that they run in Twins Cup. Moto America. So yeah, that's definitely something like that could be a possibility. Rodney suggested an older Honda CBR 600, so that's a possibility. It's just interesting now, right? Because this announcement that Yamaha is discontinuing the R6 for, is it 2021 or starting in 2022? It'll be interesting to see what happens with that, that segment of sport bike, the super sports.
Yeah.
Like everything, like Triumph's gone to the 765, and that's what they're running in Moto 2. And, there's some talks about, Twins Cup, the people may be going to the Aprilia, the 660. So
I was just going to say, Aprilia just came out with this news.
Yeah.
Would you ever consider something like the KTM 690 Super Duke?
Possibly. That could be. Yeah. So I like I said, I just got to do some research and whatnot. I'm honestly not in a big rush to buy. I would like to have something before the season starts up again. But I could rent again. It just gets a little expensive. It's like, especially, you look at a used track bike, you can get one in decent shape that's all kitted up for $3 or $4 grand. and renting a bike $500 a pop a couple times, you're pretty much covered.
Tapped out.
So,
Well,
yeah. So we'll see.
Nice.
But yeah, definitely open to suggestions. And anyone can contact me, email me through the show if you have ideas or if you know of a bike that's for sale or something. That'd be awesome.
Cool, man.
Yeah,
Well, congratulations on at least opening up the spot in the garage. Now it's
thank you. Yeah, and I went to a new rider. He's really excited to have the bike. He'd been doing his research, and he found out the Vulcan S is a good beginner bike. So he actually came up from Delaware to get it. So he was really.
How'd you sell it? How'd you sell it? Did you do it on Craigslist?
Cycle Trader.
Cycle Trader.
I did. It was really kind of interesting because I didn't expect I would sell it this time of year. But I figured, what the heck? Let me list it. Let me get it out there. See what the interest is. If I can't get the price I want, and I gotta wait till the weather starts to warm up again, and it's riding season, fine. But it just kind of worked out. He found it. He was interested, and I think he bought it 2 days before my free ad on Cycle Trader expired. So it worked out pretty good.
It did.
awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
How about you,
cool.
Kevin?
Well, during the last 2 weeks, I have done, other than range time, 0 riding. Today and yesterday, had a class, and Friday had a class this weekend. And, I'm sorry. I know I'm going to let a bunch of you down, but when I leave the house and it's 34 degrees out, I'm not getting on a bike and to ride an hour on the interstate. I just don't quite have all the heated gear yet to pull that off. So, I'm going to have to just, I guess, wait till warmer days. And I was leaving at, 6 o'clock in the morning. So, it just was too cold for me to get out there and do that. And, last weekend, I took some time just kind of away and off of things. One, to kind of digest the news, some personal news that I've got going on, and just take time away. I've been going 90-0. The 5 of the last 6 weekends, I think I've coached in one aspect or another, or helped somebody. And I needed a weekend. I need to be away from motorcycles. I need to be away from people and just veg for a little bit. And my wife was able to, take the kids and go spend time with her family a little bit, and I was able to do that. And so it was kind of nice. We had a great Thanksgiving. I smoked a turkey, first time I've done that, and everybody seemed to enjoy it. And that was kind of the highlight from the last 2 weeks. And the class we had this weekend was great. The last one for the year for me, and everybody passed, so yay to that. And we're looking forward to next time. I am already kind of like, hey, when's the weatherman say that I'm gonna have a day I can get out and ride? And I can ride in a lot colder weather than I used to, but 30s when I got a lot of stuff hitting my legs. I need just the extra pair of electric garments that I don't have, and I'm not in a position right now to be able to pick it up. So once I get that, I'll be all set.
Rodney says he has a pair of lightly used gloves for you.
Well, I've got gloves and I got heated gloves and a heated jacket, and that works well. And the problem is right now is I'm on these blood thinners because of that pulmonary embolism, and I'm cold, real easy cold, and cold used to not bother me, but I freeze all the time. Like right now, just sitting in this room, I'm cold, and I know it's a comfortable temperature in the house, and so. It's just something I'm dealing with. And so I kind of want to get the other heated plug-in gear and everything, but I'm not, given what's going on, I don't really want to go out and spend a ton of money and, kind of guard against that. But anyway.
I just want to say that I rode out this week. The last time I went riding, I rode out in 59-degree weather. Just saying.
Ooh, freezing.
Ooh. Yeah, I can take it.
Well, one of my rides was to a class, and it was about a 60-mile ride to the class, and that was 6 a.m. I think temps were about 45, so it ran, and it was all highway there. So
now I've done 45 lately. 45 is kind of my limit right now. 40, 45, that's kind of my limit. When you get down to where you still got hey, there's a freeze fog warning and there may be ice on bridges and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Yeah,
right now
I
I'm
can tell
out.
you my coldest commute, I think, was last winter when I was still doing a commute, and that was at 15. And I can tell you, it doesn't matter what heated gear you've got, you're still going to freeze your butt off at 15 degrees. Thankfully, my ride was back roads and only about 45 minutes, but that's still cold.
Well, let's not to cut you off there, but I want to go
No,
ahead and I want to go ahead and get to a couple of topics on the show, and I'm trying to figure out why my volume is not that loud. I'm having the worst time with my mixer.
You're
guys.
coming through fine.
Yeah,
Well,
you
to
sound like
you guys,
Amy.
I'm coming through okay, but when I'm watching it on the recorder, it most of the time, unless I'm really trying to talk loud, it's really soft, and I'm used to not have to really speak so loud. But I've been noticing the last several shows, seems like somebody's soft, and I haven't changed any settings, and it just different. I don't know. It something's going on with the mixer, and I've worked on it a couple times, and so I apologize if the volume levels are off. I know how much of a pain that is, you guys listening, and the volume levels all over the place. I tried my best to get them all about the same, and I apologize. Anyway, let's move on.
Okay.
So Honda Rebel, right? There's some news on the Honda front. Old Big Red over there been doing some stuff, and I can't figure out how to get my mouse to the screen. There it is. So they decided, hey, you know what? I got a bright idea. We're going to take that Africa Twin engine, and we're going to take that Honda Rebel over there, and we're going to merge them together. And they put the Africa Twin engine in a 2021 Rebel 1100. And what do you guys think about this?
Well,
Larry, go ahead. This is
okay. Well, I'll start, and I think it's actually very interesting, and a pretty innovative thing for Honda to do. So yes, they took the Africa Twin engine, they changed the gearing and stuff like that, so that it's more suited to a cruiser, ride than an off road. But it is the same really good engine, and it's so it produces more torque at lower RPMs than the Africa Twin does. And what's very interesting and I think important about this bike is that it is available both with a manual 6-speed and with their dual clutch, their DCT transmission, for a bit more money. But that I think is Honda continuing to promote the idea of an automatic transmission for riders. So the bike has a relatively low seat height, around 27.5 inches. The curb weight is only, I think it's pretty light. It's about 487 pounds, and for the manual model, and about 509 for the dual clutch. It does feature cruise control. It has a lithium-ion battery and a slip assist clutch. So it's got a lot of nice features that are just built in. It also, of course, has ABS, and it has different ride modes. So this is a bike that may not only be suitable for riders who are interested in cruisers, but also for even beginning riders. You can switch it into its rain mode and have a relatively gentle throttle, and learn to ride with that, and then move on up as you get better. So I think that this is a rather innovative bike, and it does also add a very viable alternative to the cruiser market, and a bike that is thoroughly modern in all of its technical aspects. So I'm pretty enthusiastic about it. I think this is a pretty good move by Honda. Well, what do you guys think?
Well, I'll give my 2 cents here. I think that I looking at the bike, I like the idea of putting that engine in there and doing the gearing, right? They've got something that they know works and is successful. And honestly, they're, following Yamaha's footsteps. Create a killer engine and then adapt it to other types of bikes, right? And they've been successful with it. And I think this is one that Honda, I had this kind of inkling early on in the development of the Africa Twin that they may be able to do things like this because their engine plant and power plants were due for an overhaul anyway. So I think this is a good move on that aspect. I'm not sure if the Rebel would have been the bike I would have initially gone to with it, but with it being there, it does give them room to grow in that bike. They chose that bike for a reason. I don't know if they felt like it would have boosted sales or if that was one of their highest sellings, but they kept getting feedback like, hey, we want something that, we can do more on. We can, reach a little bit higher speeds more comfortably. I don't know. It's style wise, it's okay. I'm not a fan of the exhaust at all on that. I mean, it looks like it is really a dual sport adventure type exhaust slip-on kind of setup, just kind of laid more horizontal for a traditional cruiser. I would have liked to see them put more pipes on it and everything. I will give them kudos. While I have not been a fan of the digital circular, not controls, but
display.
Thank you. I guess I'm becoming more of a fan of them and understanding like, hey, we're keeping it circular. We're trying to have that tie back to the classic. When we had the analog and dial type of displays and readouts and everything, and we're just keeping that form factor, but we're bringing the technology into it. And they've got a high end LCD that they can update. It's all software driven. It's not something that they can that they're locked into like some of the older LCD screens. This is more software driven, and they can completely customize it. So if later on they come up with a different design or layout, or who knows, that may be something that you can choose. Like, hey, how do you want to see it? What do you want to see? Do you want your speedometer? Do you want your attack? Do you want fuel as a premium? Or do you just want the miles you've ridden because you don't trust a fuel gauge in a motorcycle, which wouldn't be the most obscene thing anybody ever said. So, for that, I give them credit for it. Not riding one, don't know how it would ride. I don't know how the ergonomics are on it. I will say that, has anything really changed frame wise between the 300 and the 500? Has anything changed frame wise on this?
I think the suspension is different, but
okay.
Yeah, but I don't know if the frames changed. The other thing is that I really wish it had a belt or shaft drive. It's a chain drive as well, and I think in this level cruiser it probably deserves one of the others.
Yeah, I don't really know how or why. Maybe that's. I mean, Rodney is in. We'll have to wait a second for this answer. Is chain usually cheaper for the manufacturers than a belt drive?
Yeah, sure.
But you got to realize, from Honda, they probably know chain drives a lot better than the other ones too. And this engine and power plant and all that stuff was, Africa Twin's a chain, I believe. So, what about you other guys? What do you think?
It's kind of interesting. I was thinking, I guess officially I'm not a cruiser guy anymore, so I don't. These kind of bikes aren't really on my radar. But it's interesting. I don't know if it's good or bad. It definitely fits in with the looks of the other Rebels. I guess it makes sense, right? It's kind of like a family of motorcycles. So 300, 500, the 1100. I kind of agree with you, Kevin. The exhaust is, I don't know. It just seems nowadays a lot of just the exhaust that come on. The stock exhaust that come on manufactured bikes, just are whatever. I guess between the Euro 5 compliance and all that, they're just kind of big and ugly looking. So, yeah, maybe that doesn't quite fit. But I like the fact they've got the LED headlight, and I'm assuming tail light and whatnot. And yeah, it's kind of cool what they did with the instrument display there. It kind of makes it kind of modern. So I mean, it's a nice looking bike. I like the color. That was just like a kind of a purple plum kind of color that they show. But yeah, I guess, and to Larry, I mean, your point about, you could put it in, one of the traction control modes and have it be a little tamer. And I mean, weight wise, it could be a starter bike, right? That's probably not that far off the Rebel 500. So it is something that someone could grow into. And I think that's kind of one of the problems I ran into with the Vulcan S. Like, it was an awesome bike to start on and to learn on, but it, was not that long after riding it. I was like, you know what? I really would like more power now. So that'd be kind of cool, if you could do that with this. And reminds me a little bit like of, when I did California Superbike School with the BMW S1000 RR. The fact that you start out in rain mode basically, and so the bike, is fairly tame and it's manageable. And then, as you get a little bit better and a little more skilled, you take it, put it into a different traction control setting. So it's nice to be able to do that. Tom, you
Well, I'm along with you. My love of cruisers. So my first thought when I saw this was, yeah, the world needs another cruiser. However, I will give him kudos. So as I reread the article a second time, for that Rebel buyer who had maybe the 300 or a 500, it does give you a nice place to go. I just happened to look at the article again. So weight-wise, 500 pounds. That's great. At least it's not an 800-pound cruiser. Yes, someone can make a cruiser that weighs, that doesn't weigh 900 pounds. It can be done. Honda now has done it. I love the fact that they offer it with a DCT version. So if you've come up through the ranks of DCT on the 5 perhaps, or even a crossover from the African Twin, I think that's great that they have that. Curiously, they're offering this standard. It comes with a lithium battery. Again, keeps 10, 15 pounds of weight savings right there. So while, I don't like the cruiser, I give them credit for what they're doing. Love to see them do something similar along this into a sport touring package as well. I think that motor might work great in a sport tour type of bike. But that's my pluses on it. I think it's within that Rebel line. It's a nice step up. I love that they can make a lighter cruiser, but again, it's a cruiser. What are you going to do with it?
Cruise.
So my 2 cents. Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Well, let's stir a pot a little bit here. So Long Way Up.
Just let me interrupt for 1 second because
okay.
Tom, you had an interesting comment about wanting to see something like that in a sport tourer, and actually, there is an article about the Honda using that 1100 engine in a sport touring model for 2022, and they even have a picture of it. And so I think that that's a distinct possibility that they may come out with a sport tourer with the African Twin engine.
If that with the DCT would be, unfortunately, they're going to put a chain on it instead of a shaft drive, which I don't get from a sport tourer standpoint, but that would be a heck of a bike.
All right, well, so, there you go.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Tune in next year.
All right, so let's move on to the Long Way Up series. We haven't spoken a lot about that, and I still haven't completely completed it, but I've watched most of it. Long Way Up. Obviously, everybody knows they took the live wires. And specifically, they took very customized live wire. It was not 1 and 2, but it was the Rivians 1 and 2. But they took the live wires, customized, and set up for them, and those guys rode it up from the tip of South America all the way to LA. And for the most part, for those of you who watched it, other than at one point Ewan's bike not accepting
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler alert.
Spoiler
Whatever.
alert.
I'll say Ewan's bike having an issue, and obviously the charging
Okay.
struggles that they've already advertised is the main plot here. They were relatively okay, once they got them on the road. However, I think Tom discovered an article of somebody who borrowed a live wire for a month and apparently did not have as much success. Now, granted, Ewan and them had like the R&D folks at Harley on speed dial, and we're on the phone with them several times throughout the.
And they got technicians on a plane and flew down to Costa Rica.
So let's unpack the trip a little bit before we get into the contrast of the article, because I watched the whole thing, and my wife watched it with me, so she found it somewhat enjoyable as well. And we also rewatched Long Way Round while we were waiting for the episodes to drop. I was less enthused with this. I thought it was a lot of, how do we. Great that we have a generator truck at our beck and call that comes up and charges us when we can't find a charger. And also, how do we transport our bikes by truck, boat, plane, and bus? So
right, there was that, but to be fair, the trucks didn't have the generating capacity in the beginning. The first part of the trip, they didn't have.
No, I'm not saying the Rivian trucks. I'm saying that they put them on trucks and drove them.
They did,
quite some distances at times.
But in the first part of the trip, they were really struggling to find charging, basically, and they couldn't recharge them from their own trucks. And later on, they had technical problems. But I thought the first few episodes were very striking in terms of the fact that they were just ridden with charging anxiety.
Well, and see, that's where
figured out in 30-degree weather that you can't charge the bloody thing.
Right, at high altitudes and.
Well, and anybody with any knowledge of battery charging would have been like, well, yeah, But I'll say this: as far as the series goes, Long Way Round, the best one, absolutely the best one.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was a huge contrast to watch them almost both simultaneously.
Yeah. Long Way Down, to me, I don't know. It was like, we got to hurry. And the drama was between the two guys, right? Whereas and I've mentioned this on a couple of shows, but Long Way Round, it was the struggle for them to achieve it. Right. And you were always like, I want to watch more. You were kind of like, I want the next episode. Long Way Down didn't have that struggle. And I was like, oh, well, I got nothing else to do. I'll watch another episode. Now, obviously this was post it coming out, so I had that availability. This one, there were a few episodes that I was like, okay, this is going to be interesting, what they're about to get into. But they're, I missed the whole, we've got to tow the boats or thing, or we're crossing, this river we shouldn't be crossing. And, I don't know. It just seemed like, oh, well, we can't do this, throw it on a vehicle. And
exactly.
Can't do this, throw it on a vehicle. And I get some of the times that they did it, right? It's like, hey, Darien Gap. Well, I would have loved to. That's actually what I was wanting. I wanted them to take those bikes through the Darien Gap and see what happens. However, realistically,
I thought that too. As far as they played that up as to, the Darien, that's a Darien Gap is absolutely impassable. Okay, yeah, the Pan American Highway doesn't go through it, but plenty of people have documented passage on a motorcycle.
Yeah, but there's no charging during there, and so I mean I get it how they did it, and then you look at hey, and this is where I've left off and I haven't watched, but I kind of understand what I think is about to happen is this is not a very secure area. We need to get from point A to point B as fast as possible. Hence changes of operandi. So that aside, for a very quick and crude review from me, would I watch it again? Sure. But if it was just like, hey, choose your one, I'll watch Long Way Around for probably the umpteenth time before I watch that one again. Between Long Way Down and Long Way Up, I don't know. It just depends on what kind of mood I'm in. And what really bothered me about Long Way Up is Charlie and his accidents. You can tell that's really had an effect on him and taken a toll on him. And he's just different, and not necessarily in a bad way, but it's not from watching the other series and watching some of his other things that he's done away from Charlie. Ewan, doing things away from Ewan. It's just kind of like, I don't know, it kind of breaks your heart a little bit, just to know how much he struggles and the pain. And I will say the episodes where he was riding through the rough terrain, I felt bad. I felt horrible. I was just like, golly, like poor guy, but those were probably my favorite episodes because that was the struggle,
Right. The actual riding meant something.
Yeah. What about you, Chris?
I haven't seen the two newer ones. Like I saw Long Way Around, which was awesome. Haven't watched Long Way Down yet. Now, Long Way Up, is this still Apple TV only?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Is there like you need an Apple TV, or you can just like?
No,
like
you can
pay
you
per view
yeah,
thing?
no, you get the Apple TV app, and you can and pay for it. Pay for Apple TV Plus, right. I think.
Okay.
Yeah, Apple TV Plus.
Maybe I'll look into it. I mean, it's kind of interesting the whole thing because it is electric motorcycles, right? And it's it's good to the degree, and they're not the first, right, to travel long distances by electric motorcycle, but it does, right? That's kind of the thing now, electric vehicles, and so the fact that maybe they're having to have all kinds of difficulties, or even if they're kind of cheating once in a while, right? It's like, oh, you kind of get it, like that's the nature of the beast right now.
Well, one of the things you have to understand about this is that when in their planning and when they started off, they installed charging stations all throughout the planned route for the journey.
Oh, okay.
So
So
that was right from the get-go. They had these sophisticated charging stations to some of the most incredible locations.
Well, and some of them, it's just like they just walked up to. I feel like they just walked up to a guy and be like, "Hey, you mind if we put this in your garage?" And they're like, "Yeah, sure." And because they just like pull up to people's houses and just like plug in and not even really worrying about hey, we just pulled up into like the back of this guy's house and just plugging in.
By the way, one thing that's interesting. Sorry, and not to change the nature of the show away from motorcycles, but I was just curious as I was doing my research. I purchased this Wrangler. The fact that Jeep has a hybrid Wrangler coming out that supposedly will run 25 miles on just batteries.
Yeah.
So even Jeep is having to.
That's what my Prius Prime does. And yeah, to tell the truth, most of the time we don't use any gas because we're just doing local trips, and we do it on the battery.
Yeah.
So then let's transition a bit. Kevin brought it up at the beginning of this discussion. So there was another article that I put up there about, okay, now let's take a view from a real world rider. And this is an article where a guy had borrowed a live wire. He picked it up in LA, and it was about his journey of getting back home to Reno, Nevada, 500 miles, which, okay, any of us would do in a day, less than a day, half a day or so. That's maybe about a 8-9 hour trip. So it talked about his adventures of getting there. So let me take you to the end first. All told, he traveled 31 hours to go 500 miles. And then the challenges of how do you deal with this in the real world of charging stations when you don't have a diesel generator truck at your beck and call to come charge your bike in an hour? When you get to a charging station and, oh, it's broken or not in service. When you get to another charging station that someone is sitting there using for the next 2 hours, and so you've got to sit and wait because you don't have enough charge to get to the whatever the next one down the line.
Right.
So if you guys read that through that article, what would you all think, especially in contrast to Long Way Up and their charging challenges?
Well, I thought it was unfortunately kind of similar. You know that it takes away from the pleasure of riding a bike if you're constantly having to worry about getting to the next charging station. Now I've ridden, I've done long distance traveling on my motorcycles, and there were times when I worried about getting, when I was
Yes.
getting close to empty, yeah, and I was worried about making it to the next gas station. So I know what that feels like. Of course, on my bike, I carried a spare gallon of fuel just for such emergencies, which is harder to do on a motorcycle. So I thought that for one, it was really striking how similar they were, particularly in the beginning of the Long Way Up, in terms of their total fixation and worry about preoccupation with getting to the next charging station. Now, the other thing I would mention about that is that California probably has one of the best charging infrastructures in the country, but it's
True.
woefully inadequate for a 60-mile range on a motorcycle or an 80-mile range on a motorcycle, practically speaking. It is much better suited for a Tesla or something like that has a 200 or 300-mile range. And had he been in one of those, it would have been no problem. But on on the Harley, which in the real world, riding on the freeway in colder weather has a 60-mile range, it's a real problem.
Yeah, I mean, just to go 500 miles, this guy had to stay overnight because he couldn't get a charge until the next day.
Yeah.
So
And he ran down his battery, and then he had to replace the battery.
yeah. So that was the interesting thing, and I think they ran into this on Long Way Up as well. So there is the main battery that runs the bike, but you also have a standard 12-volt battery that runs the electronics for the main bike. So the big battery won't run the bike unless you've got a functioning 12-volt battery to run the electronics and the controller for the big battery.
That's right.
And
You can't charge the bike unless the small battery is.
Yeah. So at one point he had left the bike on through a mistake, and it ran down his standard 12-volt battery, and it killed the battery. So he had to go find and buy a new battery and swap that out because he couldn't charge the bike without the 12-volt to run the electronics.
That is ironic. So at least little bit ironic there. Yeah, I mean, look, it's still all in the early stages, right? I mean, I'll say that I would be more interested in the Livewire if I could buy Ewan and Charlie's version of it, because I just think it's cooler anyway. And especially if I got the 1-800 number to the people that could help me solve problems a lot faster, that would help me as well.
Okay.
But I mean, I'll admit, and I'm a tech guy. Everybody knows this. I'm a tech guy. I'm looking forward to the day where these conversations we're currently having, the I don't knows and the have you heard about this and well, this one guy, those are a thing of the past. Yeah, am I going to miss exhaust fumes and everything else, and the sounds and the rumbles and the feeling when you really roll on the throttle of a bike that you love? Absolutely. Just there's something about getting on a bike that you haven't been on in a while and starting it up and just getting that initial just you know, I mean, there's just something to that, right? And, you know, turning on your bike and it making the same sound as your cell phone makes, you know, when you get a text message, probably won't bring back the same emotional connection. However, there's other things that you're going to be able to experience, and you may feel more connected to your riding environment, and depending on where you're riding, that may be a good or a bad thing, you know. So, I mean, it'll get better for everybody, and not just Harley, right? For all of these companies putting out electric vehicles, it's going to get better. And eventually, at probably some point before I die, if the good Lord's willing, I'll have my own electric vehicle to have to worry about all this stuff with. And that's the way it's going, you know? I mean, if Doc Brown couldn't deliver on the time machine and flying cars by now, at least I'll get something semi-electric.
I'm right there with you. So I used to own an electric car. I had one for 5 years. It was great, and it was our exclusive car around town. It's perfect for that scenario. I just don't see it in a motorcycle yet, unless you've got the infrastructure for it. And California is probably the foremost of making that a reality.
I mean, I really, because I was thinking about, we were actually talking about this the other day. Some buddies and I were. And I was actually thinking, you know, I don't see, everybody says, well, when will gas stations get electric things? I don't see gas stations doing that. I see people buying almost like a parking deck, and you'll have, you know, you'll pull, because you'll pull in and it'll be so quick in and out. It'll almost be like, I mean, once we get to the point where, yeah, you can charge up in like 5 minutes, yeah, you'll have the gas station thing. But if it's a long-term charging scenario, you'll have to go to like the mall, and the mall will be decked out with charging stations. You'll have a charging level in their deck, or, you know, you'll have an area that is gated that you'll come in and go to a charger and charge, and you can go inside and do what you need to give you, you know, away from it for 30, 45 minutes and come back out and you'll leave, right? I see that being the charging solution rather than, you know, Chevron.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think on the highway system, every Denny's and Cracker Barrel should have charging stations. That would solve the problem of getting around the country.
Well, they'll start making Buc-ee's with a Z at the end of it, and half of them will be electric chargers.
Well, also supermarkets and shopping centers. Where our local Safeway is installing electric stations, and the malls are installing them. So I think that those are additional sites for that kind of thing. You're right. It's not going to be just gas stations.
But I think what they need to do is centralize. They're looking at these charging stations almost like gas pumps, right?
Yeah.
And there seems to be a lot of technical issues. I mean, you almost hear more stories of them not working than working. Now, granted, we all regularly pull into gas stations with the pump that's got the black bag over it and says out of order, right? But there's a plethora of them around to get more of, to be able to partake. But at this point, it seems like I hear more stories of, you know, hey, I went to this area and all of them weren't working. Well, one, they're not weather protected. They don't have any kind of awning over them or anything like that. They're just out in the open, right? You know, once they start taking hold and it's, you know, in covered areas and things like that, you'll start seeing, I think, them be of higher quality. I don't know if quality is the right word. I don't know if it's a quality issue, but it just seems that they're so technological. It almost seems like you would want to, you know, what we really need to do is have a dummy terminal that, you know, it's basically all the electronics to make it work are remote someplace else, you know, in a building with somebody who's monitoring all that stuff as a technician that can handle these issues instead of being, you know, out in the middle of nowhere, just by itself, just standing there under a light.
I see a business model for Starbucks. I mean, my GS stops at every Starbucks anyway. So if I had
I was about to show the card I got that I haven't used yet. So I actually was trying to use it the other day, and the Starbucks was closed. I was like, I need to use this card. So I don't drink coffee. I was going to buy my wife some. So, but yeah, I'm going to go and use it. Probably get maybe a peppermint mocha latte. I don't know. So anyway, continue.
That was it. I think we've beat this one down as to, it's still challenges. More to come on this as things come out.
Yeah, but
you guys will read. I didn't want to go through it on this show, but there was just an article I think just a couple days ago. I forget, one of the magazines did a shootout between Livewire and the new SRS from Zero. And they're both very capable bikes. It's interesting how they approach the charging, and that's one of the bad things about the Livewire is that so on the Livewire charges at a level 1 or a DC level 3 only. What's prevalent, especially here in the Southeast, is level 2 chargers, and so the Livewire will charge at a level 2, but a level 1. So, all right, for those that listening don't know the difference, level 3 charger charges you in less than an hour, fully charged. Level 2 maybe takes 2 hours. Level 1, 8 hours. So think of that as to, the time frame and charging. That has to be solved and standardized on the bikes as well as the infrastructure. I think if they can get these bikes that'll run, I think the magic number is 200 miles in real world riding, and have infrastructure that it will take me less than an hour to charge, that's when they become practical.
Agreed.
Yeah, I agree too. Just to get back to the series for a minute, I enjoyed watching The Long Way Up in spite of all the valid criticisms. I think that Borman and McEwen are appealing actors, and they rode through some incredible scenery. And even with all of the technical assistance and devices they had at their disposal, it still was a struggle. And so I think it's a series worth watching if you love motorcycling and you love adventure riding. You definitely are down for this series. And I hope that they're able to come back with something else in the future.
I think they've pretty much said this is it. This is the last one. I don't remember where I read that, but I did like how you combined Ewan's first name and his last name together into a new name. So,
what did I say?
McEwen.
Oh, McEwen. Yeah.
Yeah. Ewan McGregor.
Yeah. There you go.
So one thing I picked up from the series that I thought was really interesting, they would be in these absolutely remote places in South America, and people could recognize McGregor from Star Wars.
Yeah.
That was just funny as hell.
Well, he did grow the Obi-Wan beard though, which I have to admit I'm a fan of that look on him. But he did kind of grow the Obi-Wan beard, and news had just hit of him. Well, I don't know. Maybe that was after they filmed this. Him doing that Obi-Wan series for Disney Plus.
Yeah.
So. I don't know. That may have been after this happened because
I think so.
I think he grew the beard out for that on the trip, so I'm not positive. Anyway, one last thing before we get over to the paddock, we're gonna make this really quick. Several weeks ago, we mentioned that the IMS was going to do an outdoors event this year, and they've released their schedule. Some dates that may be relative to those on the podcast. We've got Loveland and Colorado, June 18th to 20th. We've got Irvine, California, July 9th through 11th. Sonoma, July 16th through the 18th.
That's near me.
Yeah,
I could be there.
Got Brooklyn, New York. I don't know what accent that was. It was the wrong one. September 3rd through the 5th. And Carlisle, Pennsylvania, September 10th through the 12th. Now we get into the three that Tom and I might be able to attend. Lebanon, Tennessee, October 8th through the 5th. Lakeland, Florida, October 15th through the 17th. And Conyers, Georgia, October 29th through the 31st.
The first real motorcycle show in Atlanta in 7-8 years, I think.
I would say this is the first motorcycle show south of Charlotte in ages. That is really worthwhile.
Is Conyers near Atlanta?
It's the western suburb, eastern suburb of Atlanta. Yeah.
Ah, I see.
So, and I don't know, the when I first look at the list, Lakeland for me is a bit of a trek. Lebanon, I don't really remember where Lebanon is in Tennessee.
Lebanon is about 30 miles southeast of Nashville. So for me, it's about 3.5-4 hours from Atlanta.
Okay, so how long?
About 3.5. So it's
hours.
Okay. 3.5 hours. So it's on, I forget, Highway 24, just off Highway 24, maybe about 30-40 miles southeast of Tennessee.
See, I'm trying to decide if Conyers is closer to me or Lebanon is closer to me. I think Conyers is closer to me, but going around Atlanta to get to it isn't necessarily a quick option.
So you take 20 all the way through, and it's maybe another 30, maybe 20 to 30 minutes east of downtown Atlanta.
I might be able to, from where I'm at, take a road up to near Huntsville, cut over to 65, and then go up to Lebanon there. And what I might be able to do is I might be able to call Bacon and see if he wanted to meet me there that weekend. If this is a big if there isn't another get together someplace else in the country that I want to go to during that time as well. Of course, So
because the Atlanta one will be their last, and it's going to be the end of October, I believe, isn't it?
Yeah. So that Atlanta's going to be my fallback if I can't do Lebanon. The other two guys in the show are just like, I really don't care, guys. Figure it out offline.
I'm looking at Sonoma, and that's less than an hour away from me, and so that's very accessible. Yeah, and I don't know. They may have. Maybe they'll do test rides on the raceway there.
That time of year, they might be able to.
Yeah.
Of course, with COVID, I don't know if test rides are an option.
Well, this is going to be in July or August, and I think that they're hoping that by then. The vaccinations will have been extensive enough so that things like this will be more feasible.
Or we'll all grow third eyes, whatever will happen.
But I mean, I'm excited about this. I think it's kind of great. Chris, you got one by you, Brooklyn.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna miss not being able to go, because we've been going every year in December, when it was at the Javits Convention Center. So so it'll be nice 2021. It'll be new with the outdoor thing. I'm curious to see, Brooklyn. I don't know. It's either going to be some big field or maybe one of the parks or something like that, or I don't know, stadium or something. I'm curious to see where they're going to hold it.
Lots of country in Brooklyn.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because there's nothing like going in the snow to go see motorcycles. So. So anyway, this is a good thing. So with those locations and dates, find one near you and then write the show. Let us know what you think. feedback@throttledpodcast.com. All right. So can we quickly do a quick wrap up of the paddock?
Well, I'll try. I got a lot of racing news to report on, however. So first thing is that, and I read this recently, is the question of whether the Isle of Man TT is going to be ending in the near future. And the story is that they have canceled the 2021 Isle of Man TT because of the pandemic. They are promising, however, that they will have a bigger and better 2022 TT. However, and the likelihood is that they will have that. However, has been and there continues to be a lot of opposition to the TT, both on the island itself and outside of the island, because of the dangerousness of the event, the cost of it for the people on the island, and so on. And so the cancellation this year and next year of the event has raised the question for lots of people as to whether or not it's going to be viable for the ongoing future, and that is a question. So, if you like the Isle of Man TT and you want to see it in person, they're recommending that you make reservations early for the 2022 event, because there is a possibility that it may be the last one. That is unfortunate or fortunate, depending on your point of view. I've certainly loved watching the event. However, it is, it is racetrack speeds on country roads and roads that go through towns and so on. And it is a very dangerous event. And so I don't know if in this day and age, such an event can continue. But 2022, it probably almost certainly will happen, and you can plan on that. Any other thoughts from you guys?
It'll be curious to see. I guess actually I have kind of mixed feelings about it. I would love to go see it live. That remains. I'm not going to make plans for 2022 at this point, just because who knows if that's going to even happen. But if it does continue, I'd love to see it. I mean, to your point, it is dangerous stuff. With at least 1 or 2 people die every year. That's kind of a given. That it is a risk of it. It's interesting too that, as far as I know, like the history of the Isle of Man TT, one of the reasons it started was because they stopped motorcycle road racing on continental Europe. Yeah. Because of the danger. And so it kind of moved over to the Isle of Man for whatever reason. I don't know if there was more enthusiasts there, or the laws were different, or more lax, or whatever. I don't know. I mean, I guess I wouldn't be super upset if they did stop it. And, I know there's a lot of people who will be. But, if you want to enjoy watching it, there's plenty of video and stuff, of years past. So I don't know, maybe it is time to move on.
Well, it has a long history, and it was, it was a part of the MotoGP circuit for a number of years until they dropped it, essentially because of the dangerousness of the track. So, there is quite a history to it, and it is a really spectacular event. It normally takes place over 2 weeks. They have lots of different kinds of races, and so they're speculating that they will shorten the event for the future, and how short it will be varies from speculations about it being a week to being 3 days. So that's probably going to be in the offing.
Yeah, but it is interesting, the contrast, like when you look at what Dorna is doing with MotoGP, right? The requirements for safety and whatnot, they year to year they raise them, right, to the point where certain tracks are no longer homologated, and tracks struggle to get the things that are required safety wise in order to hold MotoGP races and whatever. So I don't know, maybe that is the way to go.
Yeah, well, road circuit will never conform with the safety requirements.
Nope, not when you got hay bales in front of stone walls and stuff like that.
Stone walls and buildings. That's right. Yeah. So,
but I think it's something I'd mentioned before. But for anyone who's interested in the Isle of Man TT, either has seen it or just wants to learn more about it, check out there's a series, the religion of sports. I think they did a really good documentary on Isle of Man TT, which really gives good insight into what it's all about. So. You can find that on YouTube, I believe.
Okay, so moving on, the next thing that I wanted to report on is that I just saw this, that in terms of MotoGP, Marc Marquez, who, as you may know, had broken his right arm after a high side on the track, and had surgery immediately to repair the brake, and he tried to come back too soon, basically, and exacerbated break and had to have a second surgery on it to try to promote healing of the bone, and that surgery was not successful. So he has just undergone a third operation on his arm, and it's going to probably take at least 6 months, to see if this surgery is working and if the graft is taking.
Wow.
So likelihood is that he will not be able to participate in the MotoGP preseason next year. And there's a good chance that he may not even be able to start in the first races. Now, Marquez, as you probably know, is a super competitive guy, and he will probably try to come back as early as possible. However, given the fact that he did try to do that before and it backfired, he may this time hopefully take a more sober approach, or be encouraged to be more judicious about when he starts to come back. And I hope he does take that course, even if he misses a few races. That would be the best thing for him. So, but the question remains: is he going to be able to come back and dominate racing as he has before? Or is this the beginning of the end for his career? Is the problems with his arm going to spell the difference for him in terms of his remarkable ability to ride those Honda bikes that are very difficult to tame on the tracks, and really only he has been able to master them. And so
how old of a guy is he?
Oh, he's a young guy. He's I don't know,
24, 20.
No, he's older than that, but probably in his mid or later 20s or something like that. But he's a young guy.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, but he after the first break, he immediately tried to come back. There was a video of him doing push-ups right after days after he had the surgery. Yeah. And then he tried to ride the bike. He actually wanted to come back and race, I think 2 weeks after he had the break, and he exacerbated the problem. He had to stop riding, and I think that has led to the complications that he's experiencing now. So that was unfortunate. He really is a super competitive, driven guy, and he tried to come back much too soon from a very severe arm break. So anyway, that's probably not good news in terms of the immediate future for MotoGP. It's been very entertaining watching him race, however, without him, the season turned out to be one of surprises every race, and this was no less the matter in the last race of the season. This was in the Portimao track in Portugal, and this was a track that normally is not part of the MotoGP circuit, but the track did modify and repave their track and so on to try to accommodate the needs for MotoGP. And because of the restrictions and travel and so on, the MotoGP had decided to end their season on this new track, new for MotoGP track. And so right from the start, this was an unusual race. Oliveira took the pole position from the qualifying, and you might ask who. Miguel Oliveira rides on the non-factory KTM team, one of the non-factory KTM teams, the Tech 3 team. He did actually win a race earlier in the season on that bike, so he wasn't totally unknown at this point, but still it was pretty striking that he and on a KTM bike really dominated in the qualifying. And then Franco Morbidelli on the Pramac Ducati, on the Pramac Yamaha was in second place. No. I'm sorry, I got that wrong. Jack Miller on the Pramac Ducati was in second place, and Franco Morbidelli on the Yamaha, the non-factory Yamaha, was in third, and I think it's was it Petronas Yamaha is in third place, and so it turns out that three of the satellite motorcycle teams were on the front row grid. And Oliveira really seemed to have the track dialed in qualifying. And this was a difficult track for these bikes. I read an interesting analysis of this, and the guy who Kevin or Cameron from Cycle World talked about this, and he questioned whether or not the bikes are so stiff. The MotoGP bikes, their frames are so stiff that when they get to a track which has more undulations and ups and downs, that their frames just cannot accommodate to that track, and so they lose traction. This Portimao is a track that has lots of elevation changes and that has a somewhat rougher surface with, I guess, a little bit bumpier, kind of similar to Laguna Seca down here in Monterey. And this posed a challenge, he thought, to the stiff-framed MotoGP bikes. Some were better able to excel at this than others, particularly the KTMs on this track. Whereas Vinales, Valentino Rossi, and Fabian Quartararo really seemed to be victims of the track. They just could not get their bikes set up for this track. So the most competitive race, the race started, and Oliveira jumped out into the lead from the pole position, and he held the lead for the entire race. He really rode a terrific race, very consistent, and was able to control tire wear and all that kind of stuff. The KTMs really looked good. The most competitive part of the race really was between Morbidelli and Miller, and they were battling for second. However, previously they had battled for the second place, and Morbidelli triumphed. This time, Miller was able to slip by him and take over second place, and Morbidelli came in third. So this is a very unusual year that appears to have been dominated by relatively new riders and the satellite teams. And even the championship was taken over by Suzuki. And although Suzuki now is considered one of the major players, there's still the newcomers to the major players, and they were not expected to dominate this year the way they did. So this is a kind of a transition year, it appears to be in some cases. And the question is, when Marquez returns, will he dominate the field again, or has his time and Honda's time passed? Will KTM and Suzuki continue their upward curve for next season? Joan Mir on Suzuki won the championship. Morbidelli finished an amazing second this year on the Petronas Yamaha, and Alex Rins on Suzuki the Suzuki finished in third place overall, and Dovizioso, who has kind of been counted out this season on Ducati, the Team Ducati, managed to finish fourth in the championship points. And possibly next year he may be a test rider for Honda. And if Marquez is unable to ride in the beginning of the season, it's possible that Dovizioso may be, as the test rider for Yamaha, he may fill in for Marquez. This would be very interesting indeed, although he has not yet signed with Honda, but they have been negotiating. So lots of questions, and the answers can only be found on the track next year. So look forward to seeing you there. And that's it from the paddock.
Awesome, and well done as always, my friend. So let's acknowledge our crew members, the guys that kind of help pay to keep the show going. You guys give us your support every month. We really appreciate it. Thank you for everything you do to keep the show rolling. We wouldn't be here without you. We say that week in, week out, and we truly mean it. You guys are awesome. And if you'd like to support the show and help give back a little bit, go to the website throttledpodcast.com, click on the Patreon logo, and get signed up there. All right, let's start wrapping things up. We've got feedback. I mentioned that earlier. We love getting feedback. Feedback at throttledpodcast.com. You can go to the website throttledpodcast.com, click on the contact form, and you can fill it out. We get that in the same mailbox. Look forward to getting your messages. Please keep them going. Outside of that, Twitter at Throttle Show, Instagram Throttle Show, and Facebook Throttle Podcast. We do broadcast live on Sundays, 7:30 Central, 5:30 Pacific, and about 15 to 30 minutes before the show, we usually post something on Facebook and Twitter with that week's live feed link and reminder. So feel free to go there. Now, this is a YouTube. You can go to one of the other recordings we've done on our social media, click on that and go ahead and subscribe, hit the notification button, and then you'll get notified as soon as we go live. It'll pop up on your phone. Mine did earlier if you've got the apps installed. So that'll help you get in touch with the show and be able to catch us live if you're interested. Or just a reminder that, about 30 minutes after the show, that episode will be up, ready for you to go ahead and absorb. And on YouTube, if you that is your viewing pleasure. Outside of that, that's all I've really got. Gentlemen, thank you so much for this wonderful show. Let's see. Tom, you want to sign out?
Absolutely. Everybody have a good week. It's wonderful here, and I am temporarily housed in sunny Florida. So I'm spending a lot of time on the beach and on my electric bike tooling around the flatlands of the Panhandle of Florida. But hope everybody has a fun week. Get out and ride as best you can in the colder weather. Bundle up, do electric gear, and we'll see you all next week.
Chris.
Yeah, so as always, it's been a lot of fun hanging out with you guys tonight. Thanks for everyone participating in the live stream chat. It's been a lot of interesting stuff going back and forth. And yeah, Tom, I've already taken your advice. I've cracked open taken out the heated gear. I've actually done a couple of rides with that. So yep, I'll be doing my thing. I'll be riding all winter long as the conditions allow. So yep, hopefully some riding to report next time I talk to you guys.
And Larry.
Yeah, well, I don't want you guys to worry about me because I will manage to get out in our 60-degree weather, and I will take it I'll take it for the team.
Nice.
So yeah, so thanks for listening, and we'll be talking to you again next week.
And people wonder why when Larry messes up on people's names like Ewan McGregor's while we pick on them. Just saying.
Hey, you got to give some consideration to age.
Yeah.
It's a California
okay.
thing.
Yeah. Anyway, hey, look, everybody, whether your weather is good or bad, we hope you can get out there and ride. Break out that weather gear if you've got it. If not, and your bike's all tucked in for the winter, go outside and pour one out for it. Just take some oil, throw it on the ground a little bit. It'll appreciate it, I'm sure. But in all seriousness, if you're out there riding, please ride safe. We want to make sure that you're around and that we're able to one day hook up and hopefully have a group ride with you. Outside of that, if you're riding, ride safe. We'll see you all next week. Bye, everybody. All right, everybody in the live stream, we're going to have bounce out now. Thanks so much for being here. You guys, as always, are awesome. The live stream was bouncing. I loved all the chat. Split hairs got me put the pinky out when you sip. Okay, thanks. I appreciate it. I may have done that. I've been called out for my pinkies here lately. It's you guys know I've got nerve damage in my hands, but I got called out sipping a bottle of water, and my pinky was just kind of flinging around. They're like, "Oh, that must be some fine, English water you're sipping on there," And so I got called out for that too, actually this weekend. So anyway, guys, thanks so much. You've been awesome.